boyfriends in my life. My mother claims they are both the most un-Jewishy Jews in the world. One was a vegan who denounced circumcision, gave me a book titled Salt the Silent Killer for my birthday, and dragged me down to the Anti-Tax League on Lafayette Street. My mother found the brochures and said, "Enough is enough, Vanessa, I'm putting my foot down." The other un-Jewishy Jew was a drummer, a Palestinian activist whose parents were atheists and alcoholics. But his mother was Jewish, so by Jewish law, I was dating a Jew. My mother doesn't care who I date anymore. I say anymore because maybe she might have once in the deep forest of her mind had a minuscule but original blueprint for me. But now she just wants me to be a nice young man that's not depressed. Depressed is one of my mother's favorite words. It is the reason why everything is everything. The books on our shelves growing up were When You Just Can't Get Out of Bed in the Morning, The Dance of Anger, and On Death and Dying. Now she's anti-self-help books. This life change all happened when she started dating Patrick, an Irish Catholic from Connecticut. My grandmother did not talk to my mother for 1 whole month because of Patrick. My mother said, "I had my kids with a nice Jewish guy, and look what he turned out to be. Ha! Ha!" My grandmother said nothing. Then she cooked a full-course Syrian dinner for Patrick and only cursed under her breath once when he put ketchup on the sambusa, a fine Arabic pastry filled with kashkabal cheese that was now, as she growled, reduced to a French fry. I never spoke to my grandmother about dating outside my race, outside my religion, outside my age range, outside my economic status, outside. Only once did she mention she thought marrying outside would be hard when you decided to have children. I guess she assumed that children who grew up with the same parents of same race and religion grew up with no confusion, anxiety, or questioning of the world. Like me. It's an example of someone who's completely secure and happy. As I said, my mother doesn't care who I date anymore. She just wants me to be happy. I could date a Muppet. If that made me happy, she'd be happy. I told my mother I was happy when I met Frank, my first boyfriend in Hunter College. I met him on the bridge, the long walkway that connected the 2 main buildings and served as a hangout spot for ambitious lasses like me who were still cutting classes in college. Frank was Dominican, his full name Francisco, a name that always made me think of those explorers that you read about in the 3rd grade. He lived on Dykeman Street in a low-ceiling basement apartment where his dad was the super. He had a pit bull named Cyborg that was housed in a little gated area outside and ate leftover pasteles when dinner was over. Frank was my first real boyfriend. We always held hands, wrote our names in hearts, and went out to Dallas BBQ when he got his paycheck. Everyone thought Frank was a real cutie. He used to date this Colombian girl, Damaris from Queens, but Damaris smoked cigarettes and was what Frank called a real bochinchera, which I think is kind of like a Spanish yenta. Frank and I used to get pictures taken of us on 42nd Street in front of large airbrushed backdrops adorned with fake Gucci and Louis Vuitton logos. Frank posed gangster style, his arm draped around me while I clutched big stuffed animals. Frank was obsessed with giving me stuffed animals. He gave me stuffed animals for every holiday, every fight we made up from, every season change. They got bigger according to the importance of the occasion. For my birthday, I once got a bear the size of a small adolescent. There were stuffed animals he won from Great Adventure holding metallic balloons that said, "I love you." Stuffed animals that sang "You're my sunshine" when you squeezed them. Stuffed animals with cards around the necks where he filled in the blanks. "Dear Shorty." "I love you, Francisco." I gave him stuffed animals with suction cups and stuck to the rear of his car window. Frank had a car, which for a Manhattan girl was so fly. Let alone a car with a Dominican flag, a pina colada air freshener which made me gag, and a glossy bookmark with Jesus Christ on it dangling from from the rearview mirror. I watched Mr. Jesus sway from side to side and wondered if he was watching me. Mr. Jesus thought I was the enemy. Frank and I drove all over the Heights. We drove to Fort Tryon Park and made out in the car. We drove to his boy Ernie's house with a bottle of Cisco and made out on the roof. We drove to the Chimney Trudy truck and bought what Frank described as Dominican hamburgers and lemonade. And we went shopping. But we didn't shop at regular stores. We shopped at apartamentos. Apartments that sold clothing like bootleg CDs. Stolen? Nah, just detoured clothes. Gap, Polo, Nautica, Benetton, Coca-Cola, and Armani clothes for half the price of Macy's. On a lucky day, they might even have Timberland boots and Michael Jordan cologne. We sifted through hefty bags, pulling out baggy jeans and goose-down jackets. Frank tried to convince me to get an orange triple fat goose jacket that pulled in with elastic at the waist. I looked like a fat starburst. But Frank looked amazing in orange. He had that caramel complexion that looks good in every color of the rainbow. Frank would dance with his projected goods on. That was the only way he could tell if he liked them. He would make the guys, owners, whatever they were, turn off the merengue and put on his tape-up hip-hop house from his Walkman, and he'd dance. The guys at the apartamento loved Frank. They set aside rugby shirts for him, and when he danced, they'd laugh and serve us coquito, Spanish eggnog, and thick croissants.